Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is HABIB HUZAIR bin Muhammad ZAINI. My student ID is 2025237202. I'm from class 2A. So today I will represent to you about pollination and fertilization. So this is my content, which is we have pollination, fertilization and conclusion. So I will go detail about pollination. Pollination is the transfer of pollen grains from male part of flower, which is anther, from one flower to the female part stigma of the same or another flower of the same species. So we can look at the diagram that the bees take the pollen grains from anther and transferring the pollen grains to the stigma. So pollination is the first process of sexual fertilization in flowering plants. Pollen grains contain the male gametes and are present in the anther of the flower. This allows for fertilization to occur, which is the fusion of male and female gametes to produce seeds and the next generation of plants. So, the importance of pollination. First, we have reproduce and produce enough seeds for dispersal propagation. Second, to maintain the genetic diversity within a population. And third, develop educate fruits to entice the seed dispersers. So, we have agent of pollination. Agent of pollination have two, biotic, the living things, and abiotic, non-living. So, abiotic, and living. We have three. We have insect, birds, and mammals. For insect is the common pollinator. For insect is a common agent pollinator, which is insect like bees, butterflies, and beetles move pollen from a flower's male anther to its female stigma in order to facilitate seed production and fertilization. Second, birds. Birds also can be agent where birds transfer pollen between flowers, enable plant to reproduce. Example of birds, which is hummingbirds and sunbirds. For mammal species, two can be a pollinator like bat. So we go to abiotic or non-living things. First, we have wine. How wine can be a pollinator? By carries pollen through the air from one flower to another flower. For example, plants that use in this method have small, dull color flowers that do not have any smell or nectar. They also make a lot of light pollen and have feathery stigmas that hold outside the flower to catch the pollen that is flying around. For water can transport pollen in aquatic environments. This technique basically are essential for plants like submerged tape grass and Vallisneria that cannot reproduce by one or insect, just only on water. So the type of pollination. Type of pollination have two, which is first self-pollination and second is cross-pollination. For self-pollination occurs when the pollen from the anther is transferred on the stigma of the same flower or another flower on the same plant. For cross-pollination is the transfer of pollen from the anther of one flower to the stigma of another flower on a different individual of the same species. So there is three type of pollination, which is same as before, but we have autogamy, geitonogamy, and xenogamy. For autogamy, type of self-pollination where the transfer of pollen grains from the anther to the stigma take place within the same flower. So there is a self-pollination, but use a same flower. For geitonogamy, type of self-pollination where the transfer of pollen grains from the anther to the stigma take place between different flowers in the same plant. Geitonogamy is a self-pollination too, but used by two different flowers but the same plant, same species. For xenogamy is the cross pollination where the pollen grain transfer occurs across flower of two different plants. Xenogamy is a cross pollination where pollen grain transfer for two different plants. So next we go to the fertilization. Fertilization is a process of sexual reproduction, the forming of a diploid zygote through an interaction of female gametes ovum and male gametes pollen. Flowers play a significant role as they are the reproductive structures of angiosperms, flowering plants. So this is a fertilization process. After the couple is pollinated, the pollen grain germinates and develops into the style by creating the way for its entry to the ovary. Through the micropyle, the pollen tube enters the ovule before exploding into the embryo section. In this instance, the male nucleus fuses with the egg nucleus within the ovule to create a diploid zygote, which subsequently enlarges and matures into fruits. So we go to the type of fertilization. Type of fertilization we have four, which is parogamy, chalazogamy, mesogamy, and double fertilization. So for parogamy is an entrance of pollen tube in a seed plant to the micropyle. For chalazogamy method, flowering plant use the chalaza, a tissue at the base of the ovule, to allow the pollen tube to enter the embryo sac. For mesogamy, the pollen tube enters the ovule either through the interhumans or the center portion of the ovule. So next, double fertilization. Double fertilization is the fusion of a female gametophyte with the two male gametes. So we can look at the diagram. The pollen grains adhere to stigma which contain two cells, which is generative cell and tube cell. The pollen tube cell grow into the style. The generative cell travel inside the pollen tube is divided into two form two sperm. The pollen tube penetrates an opening in the ovule called micropyle. One of the sperm fertilized egg form to diploid zygote. The other sperm fertilized to form triploid and the sperm which will become food source for the growing embryo. So this is the plant life cycle, which is you can look at a first from seed to germination, and stem and roots, leaf, flower, and pollination. So the alternate of generation from zygote, saurophyte, spores, gametophyte, and egg sperm. So for the conclusion, two crucial steps in the reproductive cycle of flowering plant are pollination and fertilization. Pollination allows pollen grains to move from anther to the stigma, manually or by biotic agents like wine and insect. This is an important stage because it opens the door to fertilization. The pollen tube grow and carry male gametes to ovule when the pollen grains successfully germinate on the stigma. The male gametes then unite with the female egg cell during fertilization, creating zygote by ensuring the generation seeds and fruits. This mechanism enables to plant procreate, preserve genetic variation, and support their species. So that's from me. Thank you.